Coming up on this episode of Flirtations, we're asking the question, is there life after love? And spoiler alert, hell yeah. Indeed, starting over after a divorce or long-term relationship can feel overwhelming, but it can also be an opportunity for growth, self-discovery, and redefining what you truly want in love and life. With our guest, podcast host, and dating coach, Sadie Marie, we explore what it means to date after a major breakup, the challenges that come with it, and how to embrace new experiences with confidence. We discuss the importance of having a support squad as you navigate dating again, how to know when it's time to walk away, and why relationships aren't just about checking a box. Plus, we'll talk about the loss we feel when a relationship ends and go into common dating struggles like why we're drawn to the bad boy, the frustration of ghosting, and how to find emotionally available partners. If you're stepping back into the dating scene after a long-term relationship or divorce, this episode is for you. Let's go, flirties.
I heard you wanted to flirt. I heard you wanted to flirt. I heard you wanted to flirt. Hello, my name is Benjamin. I'm the flirt coach and a gay Libra. Everyone has an inner flirt.
Hey, flirty.
Live, laugh, flirt.
Work the flirt.
Work the flirt. Delulu is the Salulu. Expert on the flirt.
Hey, flirty. There's always another flirt.
Everyone has an inner flirt. Get out of your head and into the flirt.
Flirties, on the show today, we're asking the question, is there life after love? Spoiler alert, hell yeah, as we talk about dating after divorce or a long-term relationship with Sadie Marie, host of Sadie's Divorced and Happy podcast and founder of the Happily Divorced Club. So much to get to. This is a two-part episode. Sadie, welcome to the show.
Oh, I'm so excited to be part of a flirt cast. Is that what this is called? I've never done this before. I love it. I'm a podcaster too, but I've never done a flirt cast. So
very branded. Yes, not a podcast. A flirt cast. We're going to get into some flirting and dating tips for sure. Maybe more in part 2. Could come up in part 1. You just never know. As we're recording this, who knows what's going to happen?
So much to talk about. Absolutely, though.
Truly, yeah. How this two-part episode really came to be, reached out to you, started following, just absorbing, listening to the content, and teased a concept for an episode, reached out to the flirties, asked them, hey, what can we help you with? What questions do you have? And they submitted so many that it was too much for one.
Very universal questions. I mean, it's not just your audience. My audience would have similar questions too. So
absolutely.
Universal struggle, what they're bringing up today. Mm-hmm.
You reached out to yours as well, and there were some similarities in themes. So we got a lot to get to, but here at the top, I want the flirties, if they're meeting you for the first time today, to learn more about you and yes, how you got into this.
So I have a podcast, like you shared, and you know, of course, after divorce, there's a lot to learn about dating. I had been married for 11 years with now I call him my co-parent, but my ex-husband for 14. So I had a big learning curve because when I came back into the dating scene, the apps were new to me. I had not used those in my 20s, early 30s. So that was like, you know, being a kid in a candy store, so much to learn. But initially it's like, I want that and I want that and I want that. And now 6 years out, I'm like, I have different strategy when it comes to dating apps, but I have learned a lot from the experience. And what I do now is I date very differently than when I was in my 20s. Now, I know your audience ranges right from mid-20s to anywhere like late 40s. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would say that's the sweet spot. The flirties are truly global. I'm around like 26 to 40, but it's so across the board. There are people in their teens, 50s, 60s, 70s that identify through all different straight, but queer, but it's really a diverse group. But I love that we can talk about dating in such a way that it's, I feel, universal regardless of who you are and where you are, speaking to those key themes, right?
Absolutely. So I just want to share with your listener what I have learned to do that has helped me, how I show up differently when it comes to dating. So just some tips initially that I have learned have really kept me sane, because dating can make you feel kind of crazy. I mean, it can make you feel, well, first of all, very vulnerable.
Yeah.
And a little frustrated, just a titch. Sometimes, not always.
Oh, Sadie, I'm so curious because I can relate to your experience already. Even though I haven't been divorced, I have been engaged.
Okay.
I don't know if I've ever told that story before, but I was engaged at one point. My longest relationship was 7 years. And when I started that relationship also, this was like pre-smartphone. This was pre-dating apps. And then I came out of that relationship with the dating landscape was not in any way what I remember. So, yes, already I'm all ears.
Okay. So what I have learned when it comes to dating is it kind of takes a village. I have accepted that I by myself am not going to be as successful when it comes to dating as if I do the following, so first of all, create a support squad. And what I mean by that is it's not necessarily where you have a friend per se when something doesn't go right and you call that friend and you analyze everything about everything, because I don't think that's very productive or helpful. What I mean when I say create a support squad is have a structured group of people that you can always count on for emotional support just in life in general. Because obviously we want to date because we want intimacy. We want connection. We're mammals. We're wired to have community. Yep. And I think oftentimes people are looking for that one person, especially when you're younger. I know I did this in my 20s to really just give you so much and check all these boxes and somehow this person is going to make your life so much better. Well, you're kind of setting yourself up, as you know, because you've been doing this for a while, you're setting yourself up to be disappointed. So my big learning is I have, honestly, in my journal, I do this every season, Benjamin, where, okay, these are the people in my circle. These are the people that live locally. These are the people that live out of town. These are the people that are my virtual community. And having that in place, I will tell you, when I am feeling a little, I'm going to use the word needy. When I'm feeling a little needy, I can go to that group of people and I can get my emotional needs met. So the reason I'm sharing this is I think a lot of times, again, we're looking to find someone to date because something is missing, when really if we have more community in place, we're not going to feel that impatience or that panic or that neediness as much.
Yeah.
Following me?
Yes. Yeah, I'm so with you. Yeah.
Okay. And, honestly, I check that list every season. Sometimes people are added to the list and sometimes people are removed from the list.
Yeah.
But it just also reminds me that I am not alone in the world. I think sometimes dating can feel very lonely. And having that set community, like these are my people, these people show up for me, these people care about me, makes you just feel less alone in the world.
Yeah.
So have your support squad. And again, I'm not talking about who you're going to call when the person doesn't text you after 5 minutes. I'm not even talking about that, although that is helpful. It's just, who are these people? Who are the people in your life that actually really care about you? Because when you have that set, dating, I think, becomes not less of a priority, but you aren't needing someone in the same way, in my opinion. I also think... I was raised, did you have siblings, Benjamin?
Yes, I have a younger sister.
You have all over the smile when you talk about her. So I have an older brother, and on my maternal side, I have all male cousins. I was the only girl. So I like male energy. I like it. I'm also, as a businesswoman, I like working with men. I find men kind of predictable outside of dating. Dating, not always. So you need I call it safe D. And I'm not talking about friends with benefits. Benefits, sexual benefits. I'm talking about safe men. And maybe for men, it's having, women in your life that are your friends that show up for you. I think it's just important to have healthy relationships with the opposite gender that aren't romantic, that aren't sexual, where you're not looking to have a sexual desire fulfilled. So I highly recommend safe D. If you do not have safe D or safe V in your life, find it. Go to a meetup group. Find something you enjoy, like hiking or bicycling or cooking, and just meet people for the sake of meeting them to have closer connections.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Let's talk about the squad for a moment more, because I think part of what I'm hearing is sometimes, or not sometimes, probably a lot of the time, we come into dating with these expectations, which is very reasonable. But also when it comes to picking or choosing someone, we may pick someone that validates something within ourselves, or we seek out people that maybe have qualities or attributes that we perceive that we lack. So I'm thinking of a classic, like I'm definitely more the introvert, believe it or not. So I would typically be attracted to and date the extrovert because they would be the one to make plans, and in social situations I could really rely on and just have them take center stage, take the spotlight. But if you have this safety squad, you're coming into dating with less of that scarcity mindset, perhaps less
100%.
of like, oh, I lack this thing, I need this thing validated, and if it doesn't, then now, or if it's not validated, if my expectations aren't met, now I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm swimming in, it's never going to work, something's wrong with me, no one likes me. But if you have this safety squad, it doesn't replace that romantic relationship, but it can make it a lot easier, maybe more supportive.
I think that, again, I'm almost 52 years old. So I have learned a thing or two about romantic relationships. I'm also divorced, right? So I learned, like 50% of us have learned, that when you put too much expectation on one person, it can lead to disappointment. So my whole point of sharing about the support squad is that you are making sure you have a lot of intimacy in your life. You are making sure that you have different people who are interested in different things that you like, so that when you are not dating, you have things to do with other people, that you enjoy your company with people that also have similar interests.
Okay.
One thing I think we do a lot in dating, have you heard of the golden shadow? Does that mean anything to you?
Ooh, no, please. What's that?
Okay, so what we do a lot is we project, you just talked about the extrovert introvert thing. So we project characteristics or traits that we see in others that we admire and desire to actually possess within ourselves. We do this very subconsciously.
Yes.
So maybe someone that you're dating is really playful and spontaneous. And you're not so much. I'm very planned and structured. So I like dating people like that. But it's really that we're drawn to the characteristics in others that we really want to have more in our own life. And so, being mindful of, well, why do I really like this person? And is it more about like their character and how they treat me? Or is it more about a way that they behave that I really want to be more like? I think oftentimes that projection gets us into trouble, because then we realize, like, oh, I really don't like them. I just like this quality about them that I wish I had more within myself.
Yeah, I've
definitely
learned that
for sure.
Yeah, I've definitely done that. And that's one of the ways I pretty much exclusively dated. And that's a huge shift and change I've made now. I'm 39. I'll be 40 this year. Oh my God.
Exciting.
Where I used to, it is exciting. I feel like I'm really entering my golden age, to be quite honest. I'm very, very excited for my 40s. My mom has often said, like, Benjamin, 40s is your decade. It's been a struggle, but I think all the experiences, right, are kind of making sense now that everything maybe does happen for a reason.
I want to ask you a question, though. You started this podcast how long ago?
Oh my gosh, it'll be a year in June. The first episode debuted, during Pride Month, 2024.
And how has it changed your life? Because I've done a podcast for 4 years now.
No one's really asked me that question before.
I'm going to guess it significantly changed your life.
I feel like in many ways my life has kind of stayed the same, but what's changed, I feel like, is how I show up for the interviews. It's really shifted my own, just how I think and feel about myself, where I think about, like, because I've done all of this, like, I record them at my kitchen counter. Like, this is where we are right now. I reach out. There's no assistant or someone. Like, I said all the interviews myself. And I was really kind of locked into, I call it a call and response interview. It was a Q&A. I'd ask a question. The guest would give an answer. That was what I was comfortable with. But now I try and make it more conversational. I try and make it just a little bit more maybe relatable, put more of my own experience and my own voice into it. So I think what's ultimately changed is just how to show up more authentically, which is what I encourage all the flirties to
Dating.
do in their dating
Right.
lives. Yeah. And in their
Right.
relationships.
Right. I love that. I asked the question because doing my podcast and my community, helping people see that you can have a happy life after divorce, and all the people, like you have a global audience, I'm sure you get the DMs, I get the DMs. And my point is, when you create a life with purpose, when you have a life that's really rich with the things that you love and enjoy, and you have lots of purpose, you aren't, again, as focused on someone else bringing you something that you feel is lacking.
Yeah.
And that's something that's taken me years to learn. It's like, there was a question about wanting to date interesting people that you had passed along. One of your listeners or followers had asked, I just want to, know interesting people. And my response to that is, then be interesting.
Yeah.
Like, be an interesting person. I mean, once you have interests and passions and things that you love that give you purpose and joy, you aren't as attached to holding on to something that isn't working for you, because you have so much that is working for you.
Yeah.
But that's being very mindful. I mean, I think a lot of happiness around dating is being very mindful that you've created a life that you love, regardless if you have a lover or a boyfriend or a girlfriend or not.
Yeah.
And until you do that, I do think dating can be very frustrating, because you are outsourcing your happiness and trying to find it elsewhere, when really, as you know, and I know, it's within yourself. Not 100%. Again, we're mammals. We need the support squad. We need the safety. We need things outside of ourselves. But if we're always outsourcing our happiness, if we're always trying to attach it to a romantic partner, we are going to be frustrated. We are going to feel lonely. We are going to be criticizing self. We aren't going to be showing up for ourselves in the way that we really need to. So find your purpose, friend, listening. Like, what do you love to do? And maybe through that, you will find more people to date as well. Yeah. I mean, it sounds so cliche, but it's definitely something I've learned in the last 5 years. I mean, I just have an easier time saying goodbye to things that don't work for me, because I have so many things that do work for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And now that you're sharing this, I'm having this realization about one of the ways that I'm dating differently now than when I did in my teens and 20s, where I felt like I just wanted to be liked so badly.
Picked.
Oh my God, I wanted to be chosen, to be picked.
Be special.
And so what I would do is I would rush into a connection. I just wanted to get to that exclusivity. I wanted to be able to call someone my boyfriend, right? I'm going to date myself to make things Facebook official, because that was a huge thing at one point in time, to be Facebook official.
Yeah, it's validating. A lot of dating is a validation that we aren't finding in other places. Yeah.
Yeah. And if that could happen, then that fear of abandonment would go away. Right? They weren't going to leave, because now we're kind of, air quotes here, locked in to the relationship. But in order to get there, to rush through that process, I sacrificed my own wants and desires. I didn't
self-abandoned.
Oh my gosh. I didn't really, I just tried so hard to please them, to be liked, that I'd get into these relationships, and then it would be like, well, what do you mean by I'm having all these things that are unexpressed? Why can't you read my mind, right? I also just didn't know how to even
communicate.
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
About your needs, right?
No.
I remember one of my first relationships after divorce, and this man, he was a life coach, so he had some education around various things around interpersonal communication. And he asked me point blank, well, what do you need from this relationship? And I had no idea how to even answer that question, because no one had ever asked it to me. I was probably at the time almost 50 years old.
Yeah.
Been dating, for almost 30 years plus, 30 plus years. Had never been asked that question.
Yeah.
Didn't know how to answer it. And I think about that a lot now. I'm like, what do I need? And I use the word needy, but it's okay to need things.
Absolutely.
Needing things and being needy are different.
Yeah. No, it's completely reasonable and rational to have, of course, needs in your relationships, and when you're dating too. This is, it's part of it.
So it sounds like you have your own back now when it comes to dating. It sounds like you are able to be like, you know what, this isn't working for me. I'm going to remove myself from this.
Yeah, settling is not an issue, not a thing these days. not expressing myself isn't a thing. But now I'm in that. I feel, I fear I've overcorrected perhaps a little
Oh,
bit
sure.
because
Sure.
now I've kind of the pendulum has swung a little bit too far in the other direction.
I hear
where
that.
now it's like I am dating, but I'm not. On the one hand, I'm really focused on my career and I work so much and I work nights a lot. So my schedule is just, it makes dating a little difficult, not impossible, but difficult. And now I'm just in that place of almost indifference of I'm so okay being single.
Well, you like your life and you're
I
comfortable with
do.
yourself. So that's kind of what I've been talking about. You're choosing you. You've created a lot of purpose. You
Yeah.
have your back. You show up for yourself.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm willing to make sacrifices and compromise, of course.
Of
That
course.
is what dating and relationships are all about. But what I'm not willing to do is sacrifice my peace and my happiness and all of a sudden see the quality of my work decrease or I stop showing up for myself.
Right.
Like I can't put someone else's needs consistently over and above my own, which is what I
Right.
used to do all the
And
time.
just your own health. I mean, your physical health, your
God.
mental health.
Yeah, yeah. Because
I notice my body responds. Maybe this is your experience too, and the listener too, is if something isn't right, my body tells me pretty quickly.
every
Right?
time, and learning that distinction between
Mm-hmm.
something like anxiety and tuition is a huge theme question that
Right.
comes up on Flirtations, and I'm sure you see in your work too. But being able to trust your body, that like, ooh, if that equilibrium starts
Danger.
to
Yeah.
it's
Danger,
getting
danger.
off. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. It's something to notice and be curious about, but not to judge
curious
or
about.
criticize.
Right. Not to judge.
Yeah. Also a shift just
Mm-hmm.
with my mindset, that I've made. Yeah.
Love that. I love that for both of us. I hope the listener is resonating. Your body knows.
I think the flirties are into it, as we've been talking about. So one of the key themes that came up in the responses we got from our communities was this theme of pressure. Of feeling like, we're at, an age of our life where maybe the relationship didn't work out or we're single or something, and feeling like a little bit of FOMO, but maybe a little bit of loss. I think grief can be sometimes part of the experience, which is reasonable and normal, but also this maybe a little bit of pressure that you get from friends or families or friends and family, or from, like the, how are you still single kind of question.
Yeah, I don't get that anymore because I've been divorced. But I remember in my 30s experiencing that because I didn't get married till I was 34.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, and I live in Minnesota, and it's the Midwestern values. You get married young.
Yeah.
You follow this a structure, and I wasn't following it. I was like an old maid, quote unquote. So yeah, I remember those days, and I think unfortunately they caused me to not really be wise with my decision making because I felt that pressure. So from a divorced woman to the listener, I mean, marriage is the rest of your life. Like if you really sign up and you want to commit, that's their whole life, and that's a long time. That's a long time. Choose wisely. Choose wisely. And in hindsight, if I was to do it all over again, what would I change? That's hard to say because I have two beautiful children. I would never take that back.
Yeah.
But if they weren't part of the equation, I'd make a different choice based on my experience. So again, it's really not worth it. I mean, an unhappy marriage is not worth being married.
Yeah.
Just to say you're talking about checking the box. Like if you're not happy in your marriage, it's not worth it to be married, in my opinion.
Right. Right. Was there, I think some of the flirties are, they're in maybe some unhappy marriages or relationships right now, and they're asking themselves that question of when is it time to leave? Did you have a moment when maybe you knew?
I did. I had a moment. Again, when I was married, I was very much playing a part. I was not authentic. I was not having conversations like this. I wanted everyone to think I was fine and happy, and I wanted to present my family a certain way. So I did a lot of coping by spending, by overeating. Yeah, I did not cope well with my unhappiness. And then finally, there kind of came a point in time where it's like, well, is this my life? Is this how I want to live the rest of my life? And knowing that, as you know, you can't change another person. That person has to want to change. And there were things about myself that I wasn't even aware of that now I have worked on since my divorce. Therapy is a powerful thing.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what? I get to be happy too. Who knew?
100%.
The audacity to want to be happy. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There was a breaking point, a tipping point. And then there was just no going back for me.
Going
and
back.
yeah, and I'm so grateful. I mean, divorce has such a negative connotation, but getting divorced has brought me to the happiest place I've ever been. Like going through that death of the old me to find the new me is like the most profound thing I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
And it's something that so many people experience, which is why they resonate with my platform, because they are happy.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, all these people are happy like I am. Great.
Yeah.
This is fabulous.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it takes a lot. It takes a lot to get there because there is a lot to lose. There is a lot to lose. So it's not an easy decision. And whoever is listening and is feeling kind of stuck, I would encourage you to find the support you need, to find the strength you need to make a decision that can make you have the life you deserve.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really helpful because I've experienced breakups and been on both ends, right? Initiating the breakup and being broken up with, but I've never divorced, had a divorce or experienced that where there's a family.
There's a family.
Yeah, I've been on that end of it as a child. My parents divorced when I was 7 years old, so I've experienced that as
powerful.
Yeah, as a kid, and I feel like I talked a little bit of about that in episode 30 something, the breaking cycles episode. But I relate to your experience so much where when I ended that 7-year relationship, I was engaged to a man from we weren't engaged the whole time, but dated from my early mid-20s through early 30s. And I experienced a real rebirth after the ending of that relationship. I ended it, and it was difficult to end because I knew that I was going to be breaking his heart in the process. I knew it wasn't a complete surprise or shock, but it wasn't exactly welcome news or information either. And hurting someone that you really care about and love was really difficult. Like that was probably harder than knowing I was going to be single and we were living together. I was going to be moving out. I was going to be the one kind of making some of those bigger lifestyle changes. But I knew I had this person within me that I had to get to know. That I had
love that for you.
Yeah, that I had to let out
powerful.
into they had to enter the world, and they were never going to enter the world in that relationship.
Right.
Which was really, I didn't realize it then. I kind of I didn't have the exact words to kind of describe that experience. But now I'm like, I would have never done any of this if I were still in that relationship. I wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, there is loss, and then there's so much to gain too. I mean, that's how life is, and I'm grateful that I had the courage to change my life.
Yeah, yeah. It's not easy, but
No.
so worth it because on the other side is just so much opportunity and possibility. Yeah.
And you talked about grief earlier, and I just want to, for people who are maybe in more my demographic, late, 40s, 50s, maybe even, is I do also accept that I might never have a traditional relationship again. I'm not seeking to be married again. I'm seeking connection and authentic connection and love and passion and all of that. Yeah. But I'm not needing to be married again. And so sometimes I wonder if that will even happen for me.
Yeah.
And sitting with that, it's like, because we're just so conditioned. I mean, I'm a Gen Xer. I grew up with, the 80s and 90s soundtracks and the movies about love. And, I mean, we were conditioned to just think it was everything. And if you didn't have it, like, you're missing out. And I've learned that's not the case. But of course, again, there is a certain type of connection that you have with a romantic partner that is unique.
It is.
It's not a friendship. It's not a sibling. It's unique. And I honor that. I'm not saying it's all the same. So, I also have accepted, that might not happen for me again. And that does feel sad. I'm not going to sit here with you today and say, oh, I feel nothing.
Yeah.
That's not true.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, you know what? That is something I accept. And it isn't going to decide if I get to have love or happiness or joy again. Like it's not going to, that one relationship doesn't get to decide if my life is valuable or not. Because for so long, I let it decide that. For so long in my 20s, I had so much sadness because I wasn't married and I didn't have the husband. So now on the other side, it's like, yeah, I still have grief around that, but I know confidently that my life has so much meaning, whether I have that type of connection or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had to go through that journey of all of it to get to this place. And I'm so glad I'm here versus like looking for my person and feeling hopeless.
Right. Right. And that's something I think so many of the flirties will relate to. Like I'm just a good old millennial. So we grew up on.
I love millennials, especially millennial straight men. Come to me, millennial men. Come to me. Come to me. Younger men.
We grew up on the Disney movies, right? Just like.
Right. High School Musical.
Oh my God. And the rom-coms. Yes. Millennial men listening, Sadie is.
I'm leaning in. I will say one other topic we might touch on is men and vulnerability. And I will say younger men do that better. And it's so fun. They're good at listening. They ask questions.
Yeah. You know
Millennial men have surprised me in a good way.
Let's go ahead and go there.
Should we? All right. Let's do it.
Because this was a bunch of questions
huge theme,
were my God, submitted about where are the emotionally intelligent, available men? Where are they?
Well, okay. So it's a very layered question. I'm a Gen Xer. Men in my generation were not encouraged to be emotionally available.
Yeah.
They were encouraged to be emotionally shut down. So it's kind of like asking you to be an extrovert. Now, you could practice being an extrovert. You could try really hard. You could do A, B, and C to be more extroverted, but you're still an introvert, right? You're still, your, right.
That's
so
my
I think
default.
It's correct. So we can ask men to show up in a different way. We can coach them. We can model things. We can be encouraging. But to assume men are just going to become emotionally available because we want them to is negating that they've been conditioned, especially my generation, to not be. Now, I do think millennial men, and especially Gen Z, I'm raising a Gen Z son. My son is 15, super emotionally available, but I'm raising him to be that way. So he's getting that affirmation all the time to talk about his feelings, to express his feelings.
Yes. Yes.
He's not living in a household that's shutting that down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I'm excited about that for his generation. But what am I going to assume Gen X men, my generation's just going to just because I want them to be emotionally available? I mean, that's not realistic. So again, you have to be okay, straight female listening, dating Gen X men or men in general.
Yes.
To model something, to share your own vulnerability, to talk about what you're needing, what you're feeling. To model that. Because again, in business, as a business owner, I've had to learn to be logical. I've had to learn to be detached. And I can do those things, but that isn't my authentic self. That's me kind of playing a part.
Yeah.
I'm in this environment. I need to play this part.
Okay.
So I think women, sometimes we are just, not to, encourage men to grow. We should all be growing.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes we're just not realistic about how men have been conditioned for eons to be something that is not emotionally available.
Yeah. And I think I have a hard time answering this kind of question because I don't think it's helpful to kind of across the board. And you see this all over the place on social media to just demonize men. No. Because I know they're here and I know they're listening.
They're not the enemy.
No, they've booked calls. There are some guys out there that are really trying, but we're in this era of really, I think, redefining masculinity. And how are men going to respond to that? Are they going to go, complete red pill, very misogynistic, toxic? A lot of them are. A lot of them truly are. But then there are others that are, wait a second. I can still be in my masculine energy. I can still be, a good old man, but also communicate and be vulnerable and be empathetic, because at the end of the day, regardless of who I'm dating, I want my partners to feel safe with me. And that's what true masculinity is really about to me. And they're there. They're around.
They are around. They are around. And I did an episode a couple seasons ago about why we don't pick the nice guy, but should. And my guest was Trip Kramer. He's an internationally renowned dating coach. And he and I talked a lot about, women are attracted to, quote, the bad boy.
The bad boy. Yes.
We love to chase the bad boy. But that is not about the bad boy. That is about us.
Yeah.
And that is where we have to also do some soul searching and deep diving. And I've had to do that. It's like, why am I attracted to someone who does not want me, who does not treat me very well? And there's a lot of learning around that. So for me, I have accepted that I am drawn to that energy to a degree, but it isn't going to be to have an emotional connection. That's just if I want a great night of sex.
Yeah.
If I want a great night of sex, ring, ring, ring to the bad boy.
The bad boy is there.
Speed dialing. But I know now, that person is not available to know my heart and care about my day. Come on now. Yeah. So we also have to accept that responsibility.
Okay.
And continuing to play the victim with the bad boy is old. We need to get over that. We are not. We choose it. And we know on a subconscious level, and probably on a conscious level, what's going to happen.
Yeah.
We are not the victim.
Yeah.
We're not. So
yeah, I used to go after the bad boy all the time because it felt like
a challenge.
Not only was it a challenge, but then it would be like this, oh my God, they picked me.
And the dopamine, dopamine hit. Well, they'll pick you for a hot minute
for a moment.
They pick somebody else. And again, that all has to do with way deeper things. It's like, what does my inner child need right now?
Oh my gosh.
I think she needs a hug. It's like, does she need a big hug? And does she need me to affirm her? Sure.
The nice guys, they can have their own edge as well.
They sure can.
If you get to know them a little bit. Can. Yeah, but it may not reveal itself.
They can be trained. They can be trained. So,
Ooh. What do you think are some of the hallmarks or qualities of an emotionally available guy? What are some of those things at the Flirties?
You ready?
Yeah, I'm so ready.
He asks questions.
Okay.
If a man doesn't ask you questions, move along.
Okay.
I know in about 2 minutes, 5 minutes when I match with a guy on an app, if I'm going to stick around. If he only answers my question and doesn't ask me one, he's not for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll add this one. I think it parallels that is consideration. Like that is one. Oh my gosh.
I just had a moment literally today, Benjamin, where I had to say goodbye to someone because of lack of consideration. And it was very empowering because, again, I did not self-abandon, which I would have done a couple years ago. So he would have continued to give me attention. But I'm like, I'm good. I'm so good. Bye.
Yeah,
very
consideration.
Free.
That is
consideration. Time. So don't you think time too, listener? Like if someone, here's one of my pet peeves. Are you leaning in? Okay. So it's like you ask me when I'm available. Ask me when I'm available, Benjamin. Sadie, when are you? Yeah.
Sadie, when are you free?
I know, right? I'm free, Benjamin, Friday from this time to this time. And if I don't hear from you within like 24 to 48 hours, like if you just disappear after you've asked me when I'm available.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Red flag. It just
Red
is.
flag. Again, lack of consideration. Like you are so absorbed in your own world. I cannot be bothered with that anymore. I would rather watch paint dry on my kitchen wall. I swear to you. I promise. Not even being dramatic. Than like be treated that way. It's such a turnoff now. Whereas before, maybe the listener can relate. Maybe you can relate. It'd been a challenge. Been like, oh, what can I do? How can I reimagine myself? What can I wear? How can I do my hair? How can I be more so this person picks me? And now I'm like, bye. I'm so good. Peace out.
And it's how
because I got my support squad. I got my safety. I got my passions. Blah, blah, blah. I'm all good. I'm good to go. Good to go.
100%. Yeah. And it's about how the consideration comes through in their communication too. That's so big. You know, if it's like someone is only talking about themselves, right? They're going back to, they're not asking questions.
They're not asking questions, right?
Like you feel like you really open up to them about something, even like you just had a tough day and they just don't even acknowledge or consider what is your bid for connection, your vulnerability out, you know, you're putting it out there. It's like, ooh, this is someone that just isn't,
they're not available.
They're just not.
It's the John show. Not to pick on John, but you know, it's just like, it's the Bruce show. No, I don't know. I'm just, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's all about them. And that's not attractive anymore. It's such a turnoff. And I'm so glad.
It's
so glad it turns me off. Gives me the ick, right? Gives me the ick.
It should. If you're not turned off by that yet, flirties, right. Please get turned off by that. After this episode, I think I'll ask one more question here before part 2 launches in the near future. A lot of questions came through about ghosting. Because I think there's a lot of flirties that are divorced, or they're coming out of long-term relationships and they're finding that the dating landscape is just not like it used to be. I mean, ghosting used to be, you know, you just, maybe they didn't call back or you didn't call back or something like that. And now it's maybe you met on an app and then you see them again, or you now you're connected on socials and you have to, it's like you keep reliving the rejection over and over again. So I wanted to get your thoughts on just how we can, maybe how to deal with ghosting.
Well, I used to deal with it in a very different way. I used to get very aggressive around ghosting. How dare you? How dare you ignore me? I will not be ignored.
Yep.
I'm right here. It's kind of funny, right? Like it's some big revenge to be like, I know you're ghosting me.
100%. Yeah.
Made me feel better in the moment. Ultimately, didn't change anything. And now what I've learned is, okay, it doesn't really, if someone chooses to ghost me, I was even ghosted. Okay, I'm going to lean in and tell you this, Benjamin. Okay. I went on a date with a woman. I dipped my toe in that puddle, by the way. I dipped my toe. Like, am I bi-curious? Maybe I'm a little maybe I could like women. Maybe women would be more emotionally available. I was ghosted by a woman. How humbling was that? And she was a therapist, Benjamin, like a mental health therapist. And she ghosted me.
What the F, Sadie? Oh my God.
That was like, okay, I was not seeing that coming down the pike. But you know what? There were so many moments I wanted to reach out to her and be like, you're a mental health therapist and you ghosted me. You suck.
For reals. Yeah.
Right? But I restrained myself.
Okay.
And I just like, let her be her. That's her business.
Yeah.
That's her business.
Yeah.
Make it their business because it does feel personal.
Oof.
It is not. You know, mind your business is something I've learned to do much better now. And just focus on how am I treating people. And I'm going to share a couple of examples because I knew this interview was coming.
Okay.
Valentine's Day is just around the corner. Sometimes holidays trigger people to reach out to people who they haven't talked to. I've done it. Maybe you've done it. Maybe the listener's done it. Well, I had a guy reach out to me. Nice guy. He lives far away. He lives in a city on the West Coast. I'm not interested in him romantically. And he reached out to me and I initially ignored him. And then I said to myself, well, you're being an asshole. You're ghosting this guy. You're not acknowledging him. You're treating him in a way that you would think would be kind of shitty if somebody did that to you. So the next day I said, thank you for your note. I'm only available to be friends.
Okay.
Are you open to friendship? He tried to push the romantic card. I said, I'm not available for that.
Yeah.
And then he said, good luck to you. I said, good luck to you. That to me was for me, out of respect for my own personal growth. I did not need to ghost, ignore him, be an asshole.
Yes.
So again, like, how are we treating other people? You know, like we can complain about how, like I just complained about how this therapist, this woman who I thought would be emotionally available, at least say like, I'm not interested or I don't like your vibe or whatever.
Something.
Yeah. But I mean, I can't complain about her and then treat this guy that way, you know? So I'm minding my business. I'm minding my business. Yeah.
Yeah. I can say I've never been ghosted by a woman before. But there's a first time for everything.
It's different. I'm just going to say kind of threw me. I wasn't expecting that, especially from a therapist. But, we all have our moments. And I'm far from perfect. I'm far from perfect.
Oh, yeah, me too. And you said the P word.
I've made many mistakes when dating.
You're talking about minding your business and not taking it personal. And I think that is a big shift and change I've made. And something I've been playing with in my content is we take things so personally because we wouldn't personally do what they did if we were in their shoes. And so we think to ourselves, oh my God, how could they? I would never do that. How, this is so wrong. And we take it, it's personal because we wouldn't personally do that. But it is more often than not, if you're in a relationship with someone and they ghost you, we're waiting.
That's another whole other animal. I'm talking like first date, second date.
Yeah,
that's just cruel. That's, you know what I mean? That's emotional abuse. That's a whole other animal. That's a whole other. Then I recommend you see a therapist and have some heart to hearts about what got you into a relationship with someone who maybe is a narcissist or whatever. Because as I've learned, silence is it's emotional abuse. It's a power trip. It's a power trip.
You're telling me that's I will never be with another partner who uses silence and the cold shoulder as a form of punishment, essentially.
I've been there.
Of emotionally controlling.
Yeah, it's abuse.
The dynamics of the relationship. Never, ever again.
Yeah, it's emotional abuse.
But ghosting, it happened to me.
It's cowardly. It's an immature act.
Be thankful and grateful that, oh my gosh, this person showed more or less their true color sooner rather than later, and I don't have to.
And also, a lot of dating mirrors things to us, right? Like, okay, why is this hurting me so much? Like, this was one day. Like, what can you used the word curiosity earlier. I think if we could be a lot more curious about why we are reacting the way we are, we'd be better off. Again, we not really aren't the victim. It's a first, second date. This person is immature. This person doesn't have good communicate, whatever. Who knows what their backstory is? That's their problem to solve. Yeah. My problem to solve is, why am I so worked up about it? Why am I taking it so personally? What do I need right now? Who's on my support squad that I can reach out to and get some affirmation?
Call the support squad.
Yeah, yeah. No, no joke. When you have other people in your corner, and they're not even like saying he's an asshole or she's an whatever. It's just like affirming, like, you're worthy of my time. You are worthy of being treated well. Like that repetition, surrounding yourself with people who take good care of you and repeating that, then you're just going to get used to it. You're not going to have time for anybody like that. You're like, oh, whatever. You're not going to care so much.
The ghosting will sting for a moment, but it's not going to linger. Right. It's not going to affect your sleep and how you feel about yourself and your appetite. And you're just not, you're not going to get super worked up about it. It's going to be like, oh, okay.
And also, if I can add one more quick layer to that whole formula, what are you looking for when you're dating? Because there are lots of different options. If you're just casually dating, I've learned, because that was where I was at for the first couple of years after divorce, because I wasn't emotionally available. I just gotten divorced. People can be kind of shitty. They're not, because they don't really see you as a person. So like, if you're just dating casually, like, how can you have a thicker skin? Because people are, they are who they are.
Yeah. Yeah. Sadie, should we tease part 2?
I'm going to give a juicy tease.
Yes,
yummy.
I'm going to give the Flirties a little bit about
give it to them, Benjamin. Give it to them.
So we're going to be talking about some dating tips after divorce, where to meet
for sure.
some single flirties.
I've got my list.
We're going to get into some dating and flirting strategies, whether you're dating casually or you're looking for more of that long-term committed relationship. We're going to get into some of that. And then I think we're going to come back full circle to this topic of emotional availability and intelligence again. Okay. Maybe revisiting that topic after we have part 2. Yeah.
Perfect. I'm ready.
All right. We're going to stay on and keep rolling with the recording. If you are checking out part 1, thank you so much for tuning in and for listening, for streaming. Sadie, where can they find you on the internet? Yeah, listen to the podcast. Join the club.
Join the club. So you can learn more about my podcast and my Happily Divorced Club on my website, divorcedandhappy.net. I would love for you to follow me on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook and TikTok, but I have an incredible community on Instagram, over 100,000 followers of happily divorced people.
Yes.
At Sadie's Divorced and Happy. My Happily Divorced Club is on the Mighty Network platform. And what I love about the club is we have virtual events. So like I'm seeing Benjamin's face right now. And he's so cute with his mustache. Oh my gosh. And it's so much more fun than just talking, hearing a voice because you see a face. So we have fun virtual events. We are focusing on our glow up after divorce. And right now you can be a member for just $10 a month. That's a deal.
Amazing. All right. Stay tuned for part 2, Flirties, coming up next. Flirties, that's a wrap on this episode of Flirtations, part 1 of this 2-part conversation with Sadie Marie. If part 2 isn't out yet, I'm sorry, it'll be out momentarily, I promise. You can check out another episode of Flirtations in the meantime. But if part 2 is already out, head on over and check out, the remainder of this conversation. Thank you so much for being here, being a part of the show today, for listening, for tuning in, for streaming, wherever you may be in the world. And a big time thank you to our guest, Sadie Marie. All of her links in the show notes here for this episode to listen to her podcast, join the club, check out her socials, particularly on Instagram. I would love for you to do that. Show her some love. And if you're looking for some support, from Sadie, check her out. All right, Flirties, that's going to do it for me, Benjamin, the gay Libra and flirt coach here at Flirt Headquarters, signing off officially. I'll see you very soon, maybe in part 2 or another episode of Flirtations. Until then, Flirty, happy flirting.